Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this Friday's webinar from Anicca Digital. I'm pleased to bring back Ed Truman. Ed's our head of analytics and conversions and data. He has kindly come back to do the second half of his webinar a couple of weeks ago. So I'm hoping that we're going to have able to cover it all again. It's going to be a bit more interactive this week. I'm also going to do a quick poll, which we like to do at the beginning while we're waiting for everybody to come in. Now, there's a few people saying they can't hear us, and we think there's a button that you need to press. Because some people, if you look at the chat, you'll see that there's a bit of a mix of people that have got audio and haven't. So if anybody could give instructions of how they reactivated it, that would be quite useful. Yeah, it says, I clicked the click here to get audio button in the middle of the screen. They couldn't see it very well because of the slides. So I think if everybody could have a look, you should find it in the middle. So hopefully people will be able to hear us. Okay. So as you're coming in, if you can click in the audio, I think that must be a new feature because we haven't had that previously. So I apologize that they've changed the functionality slightly. Anyway, while we're waiting for a few people to come in, I'm just going to start a poll. As usual, what I'll do is I'll read the poll out. The poll is, what do you want to use Data Studio reporting for? You are allowed to respond more than one. So if you could start clicking on the poll. I haven't got any answers yet. So it's a little, oh yes, right, that's fine. It's starting to work. That's good. So the first answer is, I don't know yet. I'm looking to learn how it can be used. The second answer is to provide simple dashboards or management reports. The third answer is to create more complex dashboards from multiple data sources. The fourth one is to aggregate data and answer problems. So this is things like bringing leads and sales data together from something like a Salesforce or CRM system. And then others, sales presentation, audits, etc. So you are able to answer more than one of these questions. And so far, it's a pretty equal split, but we've got 32% just providing simple dashboards and reports. And we're actually going to teach you how to do that today. And then 25% to create more complex data dashboards from multiple data sources. Now, this is one of the powerful things about Data Studios. You can get all these different connectors. And then there's a few newbies here. They're not sure what it can do. And then a few of you wanted something a little bit more sophisticated. Okay, so I think at this point I should pass over to Ed. We are probably going to be just over an hour. So we've got a good 25 people attending. So thanks everyone very, very much. And I'm just going to turn my phone off and I'm going to turn my mic off. I'll pass over to Ed, who's going to take control. Thanks, Ed.
Hello, good morning, everybody. So today I'm covering off Data Studio, how to visualize your data within Google's visualization dashboarding tool called Google Data Studio. It's been around for a few years now. It's free to access. If you've got a Gmail account, a Google account, anybody can get access to this and start messing around with their data. So just a little bit about me. I've been working with Anicca for over 7 years. I mainly do Google Analytics and Data Studio dashboards for clients. Overlap with a little bit of conversion rate optimization as well. So understanding user insights and conversion on clients' websites is what I do. And I've become a big fan of Google Data Studio. So I really recommend it to all businesses, to all clients who have data and who want to be able to present and share it in a easy, flexible way. So what is Google Data Studio? So it's a free visualization tool from Google. It allows you to easily build reports and dashboards based on the data you want to show. So you can hook up multiple data sources, so your Google Analytics, your search console accounts, your Google Ads, and you can also bring in third-party data like your Facebook, Twitter, social media data, and custom databases. So if you've got a data source out there, chances are you can bring it in. These dashboards are fully interactive and shareable with others as well. So you can interact and move the hover above the charts and change your date ranges and use it very much like you can the Google Analytics interface. Fully customizable as well, which is great. So why do it? So you can access your data all in one place, saves you having to do deep dives into Google Analytics and go into separate platforms in order to get basic data. You can bring it all into one area. They're real-time and interactive, so they're dynamic, so your data can stay up to date. It enables you to be able to come share your dashboards with other stakeholders within the organization. They can filter on the date ranges they want and see the data they want to see. And these dashboards also accommodate multiple slides, so you're not locked down to one slide and one template. You're free to fully show whatever you want to display on the dashboard. And what I like about it is the flexibility to be able to combine different data sources together. So you're not just locked down to one data source, you can bring different data sources together, display them together, and even sometimes combine and merge the data sources into one. And the ability to be able to create new metrics is also a really kind of powerful feature. So we'll go into a bit more kind of detail about the features and benefits as we progress. So like I alluded to, it does hook up to multiple data sources. Not everything will be accessible to you via free. With Data Studio, there's free connectors and paid connectors. The free connectors are often the Google products, so anything Google Ads, Google Analytics, Search Console, Google BigQuery, Google Sheets, all of that stuff is free to get set up. If you want to bring in more sophisticated data sets from social media sites, then you will be looking at a third-party paid connector, and connectors such as Supermetrics and Funnel will enable you to be able to do that. So these are just kind of third-party paid tools to give you access to that data so you can bring it in. And they range from about £15 a month to £80 a month, depending on the amount of data and connectors you need to bring in. A great thing about Data Studio is there's already a whole community of pre-built templates. So if you don't know where to start, you want some design inspiration, you can head to the Data Studio report gallery where you can view a whole range of pre-configured templates that have all been designed by Google users out there who have submitted them as part of the reporting gallery. So yeah, feel free to choose a gallery and choose a dashboard from the gallery. I'm just going to run through a few examples, just to kind of give you a flavor of some of the things you can present. So here we have a Google Analytics dashboard, so you can bring in all of your Google Analytics data. So every dimension and metric within Google Analytics, you can bring in. There are a few restrictions. Multi-channel funnels is something, for instance, you can't bring in, but aside from that, you'll find everything else available to be able to bring in. This is an example of one of our kind of custom templates that we've built, just a kind of KPI summary. If you've got a YouTube account, you can hook up to that, bring in all the kind of key metrics from your YouTube channel. So as you can see, views, average watch times, top videos played, etc. Facebook, so using a third-party connector, we can bring in all of our Facebook cost data, so we can see our top campaigns, what we're spending on campaigns, clicks, conversions, etc. All the kind of key stuff from the account. Google Search Console also. So again, there's quite a lot of data you can bring in from Google Search Console if you want to surface some SEO insight and get greater visibility into how your website is performing in the eyes of Google. Google Sheets data. So there's unlimited possibilities to visualize any data you have in Google Sheets. So if you can get it into Google Sheets, you can bring it into Google Data Studio and use the reporting features to be able to display that data in a highly visual, powerful way.
Ed, one of the things we had to do when we first started was use Sheets as almost like a data bridge before we had the facilities to bring data in from everywhere else. So, you know, if you don't want to spend money on Supermetrics, for example, you could put some data into Google Sheets and then bring that in, or if you've got your own CRM system or something like that. So you know, we've almost brushing over the power of Sheets, but a lot of the work we did at the beginning was using Google Sheets as the sort of way of linking data from these sorts of other sources.
And it's still fine to do if you can get it into Google Sheets. And there's lots of free Google Connector tools where you can bring Google Analytics data, for instance, straight directly into Google Sheets. There's a free connector out there to enable you to make that happen. The only restrictions are with that is that you're very much kind of locked into pre-configured templates. So you lose a lot of the flexibility because you're having to kind of pre-build everything in Google Sheets, make sure it's all formatted and displaying correctly in Google Sheets before you can bring it into Google Data Studio. Whereas if you can get it a direct connection straight to Google Data Studio, there's just a lot more flexibility than in being able to work with the data. So it's not the be all and end all if you can't pull it into Google Data Studio directly, but Google Sheets is definitely a good alternative for any instances where there's not a direct connector into Data Studio. The same goes for Google My Business as well. So if you are using a third-party connector like Supermetrics, this now has access to your My Business data, so you can get your business data connected up and brought in to Data Studio as well. So this is something that was introduced, I think, within the last 12 months. This one's come in, so that's quite a popular addition to Supermetrics. Like I say, that's not a free one. That's something that's a paid for connector. That's part of the Supermetrics service. So if you want that data, there is a small fee to bring that data in. The Google Ads tracking, being a Google product, this is kind of built in, so no cost or anything. This is free of charge to get access to. If you have a Google Ads account, you can bring your Google Ads data in. This is just an example of how we've kind of customized the data to track against target. So we've got some kind of key metrics there, like click and cost data. We're seeing that tracked across target. I think on a daily basis in this instance. And there's possibilities to be able to work with the data you've got. So, you know, we create custom funnels, you know, based on checkout processes and things like that. This is an example of one we've done for a client where you can see abandoned sessions and overall funnel completion rate for checkout performance. And the same for tracking different journeys across your website, splitting it out, measuring abandonment rate over time, and being able to track that and share that with others. More recently as well, so within the last 5 weeks, they've now introduced Google Maps into this, so you can bring in location data. This just brings with it a few more kind of improved features than the features we had previously. So if you've got any kind of location data, you have city names, country names, any location data like that, you can get that in, and Data Studio will use the Google Maps functionality to load up that data and enable you to be able to toggle by things like visits and revenue. So these maps become fully interactive. You can scroll, toggle, zoom in, just like you can using the Google Maps interface. So obviously lots of stuff there, lots of possibilities. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a quick kind of like live demo overview, just to kind of show you how to get started with this. If you're logged in already, if you have a Google account, then you're just going to want to do a Google search for Google Data Studio. There's a link there to it. When you get to it, so I'm just going to share my screen now. So okay, so I'm hoping everybody can see my screen now. Okay, so this is what it looks like when you first log in. So I've started a document already. So this is obviously, this is like the interface. This is what you've got. So you've got all of the kind of elements across the top here. You've got your toolbar. The first thing you're going to want to do when you come in is actually add some data. So you need to have it hooked up to a data source. So what I'm going to show you now is how to link up some Google Analytics data, just quickly. So you're going to want to add data. You're going to want to go to Google Analytics. And provided that you obviously have access to analytics and you're currently logged in under that username, you can find the Google Analytics account you want to add to. So I'm just going to add the Google Merchandise demo account.
And it's worth having the same login for all of this, isn't it? So you create your Data Studio in the same login as you've got your Google Ads and your analytics.
Yeah, keep it all together under one login, one email address. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now I've got that data source added, I can start to add some elements to this. So at the moment, I'm working with just a complete blank canvas. So I'm going to start to add some elements to this. So I'm going to just add in some kind of scorecard metrics. So just some kind of basic metrics. And data source is going to load up. Okay, so here we go. So the data source is connected. I can see it there. I'm looking at new users. So I'm just going to change that to users. So all of the dimensions and metrics you'll find down the right-hand side here where I'm clicking. And everything's very much like drag and drop. You're not restricted to any templates. You can copy and paste. It helps to have an idea of the types of data you want to show and have an understanding of what the purpose is for the report. So, to kind of sketch it out in advance, maybe make some notes on a paper or something can be quite good to do.
I mean, we've even created a massive, great big whiteboard with a load of Post-it notes and placed it on there, or a massive big piece of A3 paper, and sort of almost pre-designed it because it makes it so much easier to build if you already know what you want.
Definitely.
Sorry, go on. The main advantage of this is that you can put metrics together that don't exist in analytics. I don't think people realize that. Some of the stuff that you want to do, you'd have to create a custom report in analytics, wouldn't you? And then because you can bring in data from all sorts of other places, you can do all sorts of really brilliant visual things.
Yeah, that's one of the beauties about it, to be able to just do things that you can't do in Google Analytics. So things that you're restricted to do in GA, you can do in Data Studio. And as you can see, I'm just adding different metrics here. I'll just add one more, conversion rate. So I could go on and on with these different metrics, but I'll just keep it to some of the basic ones. And I'll just add one more in, which will be e-commerce rate.
And can you compare that with the previous time period then?
Yes, so that's going to be my next thing. So you have the ability to be able to kind of compare these metrics. So what I'm going to do now is just select them, and I'm going to let me just align them and just distribute them horizontally a bit more evenly. There you go. Yes, so what you can do is compare these metrics with a previous period. So I can add a comparison. So I can do, let's compare with previous year. So you can go through these and okay. Just one more. And you can choose to do it for a custom period if you wanted to as well, or you can compare it against the previous month. It's completely up to you. You have full control to be able to do that. Okay. Okay, so say if I wanted now just to add, let's add a graph to this. So I'm going to add a time series graph just so I can see traffic, say, on a month-by-month basis. So I've just simply dropped a new chart onto here. I'm seeing users, and let's just do it by sessions as well. Okay. There you go. So now overlaid, I've got two metrics on a single chart. I'm viewing this by date, but if I wanted to, I can also just change this to month if I wanted to as well. But right now, I'm just going to kind of leave it as it is. To copy and paste is just simply a control copy, control C, and then a control V, just like you would in a PowerPoint or Word or whatever. And let's just turn this to, let's do this one, transactions. And we'll do revenue.
I mean, you could spend an hour just demoing this, couldn't you, really? There's so much functionality in here.
Yeah, there's a lot. Let me just show you a few more of the kind of maps features. So transaction and revenue we just brought in.
And while you're doing that, another thing that you can do, which is really powerful, is add filters. So you can have, say, 3 charts, and you can have one with mobile, one with desktop, one with tablet, or you could have a table where you've got your dimensions. So you could have the source of traffic, the channel, the location. So it's really, really powerful, all the different things you can use. And once you start using it, it's actually quite intuitive. I mean, after Ed and I first started using it, you can just learn to play with it. And there's things like the date widget, which you can have, or other filters which you can put at the top, which allows you then to go in and have an automatic date, so the actual user of the dashboard can then change the date. So there's some really powerful features, and it's not only numbers. So for example, if you bring in the supermetrics, Facebook, you can actually even see the ads. So I mean, Ed's done an incredible job of producing some quite complicated Data Studio, or sophisticated rather than complicated reports, with multiple sheets, and then quite often there'll be quite a simple top level dashboard that fits over the top of it.
Yeah, that's right. You can get really kind of complicated with it if you want, but I'd recommend anyone, really just if you've got any kind of interest at all, just start messing around with it. You won't break your original data. You won't delete your original data or anything like that. You can do as I'm doing right here and just kind of mess around with dummy demo data. That's all absolutely fine. So I'm just going to finish off this dashboard. So you can see that I've added multiple chart types and visualizations to this. I'm just going to add a top pages report where I'm just going to show unique page views, entrances.
So when Ed actually produces this report, he produces a different page on every channel, and then he also produces pages to do specific functions. So one of the nice things that he's done, which I think I'll show you later on, is quite a lot of analysis about things like content, which is really difficult to do in analytics, and even creating his own metrics. So you can see how many people have viewed down the whole of a page or part of a page. And that's using a lot of event tracking and tagging of the individual page rather than just what people go to. So if you've got good quality data, you really can do a lot of stuff with this. And interestingly, one of the things we find as soon as we create a report is we usually find holes in the data. So there, you then have a little, then part of the project is to go back and make sure the quality of the data is okay.
Yeah. Exactly. It's really only as good as the data you've got, and having an understanding of the data and the metrics and dimensions you've got to play with does become quite important. So actually understanding what the actual metrics mean and actually what it is you're actually looking at is very important. Okay, so I'm just going to finish this off. So this is starting to look a bit like a dashboard now. What I'm going to show you is just how to add a couple of filters to this. So the first thing we're going to do is just add a date range filter. So I'm just going to drag that across here. I'm going to drop that in. Again.
And another thing that I didn't mention, he's currently in the edit mode. So in the edit mode, you're in the edit mode because you've got almost like a grid. And you can see in the top right, there's the ability to view the report. And so once he's finished playing with the report, you can then flick over to the view. And then that's at the point that you can things like change that date range.
Yeah. So what I've just added a date range tool. Now I'm just going to add a couple of other filter tools. So I'm going to do this as a device. This will enable you to be able to toggle by device. And I'm just going to just put a little background on this.
So the other thing that Ed's doing at the moment is he's gone into the style. So you can see on the right-hand side, you've got data and style. So when he was bringing in the actual metrics and dimensions, he was in the data field, he's just clicked on. But when you're actually playing around with the look and feel of it, things like the fonts and the colors and the actual, the design, then you go over to the style side of things, and then you can play around with the way that it looks, and you can definitely make it on brand. So you'll see as we go through the rest of the presentation, as Ed goes through the rest of the presentation, some of the examples look different because they're related to that client's brand.
Yeah, you have full control over the kind of colors, the styling, font selection, font colors. So you can fully style this up to align with your own brand. You can bring in background imagery and all sorts. So there's a lot of possibilities with that. So, okay, so I finished here. As you can see, I've got something that kind of closely resembles a dashboard. What I can do is just put that into view mode. So come out of edit mode and put it into view mode. And this is how the report can be kind of shared and viewed by others and by yourself. And this really kind of brings it to life. So now what I can do is make use of the filter tool. So I can filter based on dates. Some of you will be familiar with this date functionality from tools like Google Analytics, so it should be quite familiar to you, the ability to be able to toggle by date. And you'll see that data is now updated based on that date range. I can then make use of these filter tools. So if I want to see data just for, say, like desktop, I can now filter on desktop, and again, the data updates to reflect that. So data's being updated on scale based on the filter selection that I put in place. So I can make use of channel as well. So if I just wanted to see, say, traffic from search engine, so organic traffic, I can just select that. So you can see that, quite quickly within like 12 minutes here, I've built a basic interactive dashboard that could easily be shared with other people. So once I'm happy with that, I can, I can obviously, choose to like align, tidy this up a little bit more. But I then have the ability to be able to kind of share or download this dashboard depending on what I want to do with it. So there's a share feature up here. So I now have the ability to be able to invite other people or just simply share a link with other people. And I can choose to make that kind of public or accessible only to like certain individuals. But I can share that link in an email, as an attachment, whatever, to enable other people to be able to get access to view what I've just done. You also have the ability here to be able to download it. So I can now choose to like download this report as a PDF. So just as simple as that, I can, select the data I want to be able to see and then hit download, and it will save as a PDF document that you can then store, share, keep, take to a meeting or whatever.
And we use that a lot. Sorry to interrupt you. We use that a lot for our monthly reports. So we have standard reports that we created for channels or multi-channel project, but every month we're making recommendations. And so what we do is we then save that as a PDF, and then the client gets that, but then we then edit it the following month. So the PDF functionality gives you a sort of snapshot in time with all the dates and everything in the correct way.
Yeah. Okay, so that's giving you kind of a bit of a kind of flavor of how the interface looks, how quick and easy it is to work with things. So I'm going to talk about some of the kind of cooler kind of advanced features and things you can do with it, just to kind of give you an idea of some of the things you can do to take control of the data you have. So one of the really cool, powerful things you can do is with calculated fields in Data Studio. So basically creating your own metrics and rules to organize the data that you have. So you can do this with things like, Data Studio can do basic math. So it can take two metrics and use math to kind of combine, subtract, basically use formulas the same way you can do in things like Google Sheets and Excel. You can transform data, so you can take lowercase data and change it to uppercase. You can create like your own rules to state that, when a certain thing displays as X, then turn it to Y. I'll show you some of these examples in the next slides. So Data Studio can work with a lot of logic, rules, and formulas to enable this to happen. So creating a new metric, for example, you'll see an example here, a new metric for new user ratio. So not something that's standard in Google Analytics, created purely in Data Studio. And Data Studio makes this really easy to do just via a create new field button. So where you see your dimensions and metrics on the right hand side, there's an option to be able to create a new field. And you can just start working with the metrics and work in a way very similar to a formula in Google Sheets where you can divide, subtract, and multiply different metrics together. And it really is that simple. Once done, that metric becomes stored and saved that you can then use within your reports. Calculations as well. So obviously taking two different metrics, adding them together to create a brand new metric that you can then embed within your tables and your reports. And there's lots of ideas you can come up with. So, depending on your, what your business scenario is, what data you're working with, there's all types of interesting potential formulas you can come up with. Perhaps there's stuff that you've been, calculations you've been having to work with in an Excel sheet that you can now, also do in Data Studio as well. So there's a lot of possibilities with working with this data. Being able to transform it. So, even if your Google Analytics data is, not the best, and you're aware you've got some, some messy data within GA, Google Data Studio is great for helping to clean up that data. So in instances where you've got things like irregular capitalization coming into your Google Analytics account, well, we can tidy that up within Data Studio quite easily. So here I've just basically taken the source and changed it all to lowercase, and that's enabled me to fix that capitalization problem. Really cool thing is being able to rename and regroup existing data. So for example, if I wanted to take specific countries and group them into sales regions for reporting sake, I can do that. So I can specify my own rules to enable them to be reported the way I need them to be reported within my reports. So taking the dimensions and then basically renaming, relabeling them as to my choosing. It's great for using channel groupings. So again, if your GA, if the data in Google Analytics is messy and isn't fully right, isn't fully correct, then you can choose to clean it up within Data Studio. You basically, similar to what I did in the last instance, here we can just regroup channels into new rule groups. So I can specify all of the different channels that I want to be included, and then specify a label for that. I can join data together, so I can use a concatenate function. So anyone familiar with spreadsheets will understand the principles of concatenation, basically just kind of joining two different metrics together. If I want to be able to append a host name to a page URL, I can do that and merge them together, so I can display them nicely in a neat table. I can use extract functionality, so I can extract certain keywords or certain parameters from any URL that I'm working with. So a common one would be instances of search terms appearing in a URL. So I can basically take that from the page path, I can take that from the URL, and extract that keyword and present it in a far kind of neater, simpler way, just to enable me to be able to clean up any irregular or unnecessary data parameters. Okay, so one of the cool things you can also do is with interactivity. So I showed you some of the kind of date range functions previously. What I'm going to do now is just kind of quickly show you from my slides how this becomes interactive. So let me just Okay, so hopefully everyone can see my screen. So this is obviously, being able to use these custom filters throughout the reports, is really useful in order to make my data, accessible and relevant to, different stakeholders and their needs, and obviously the ability to be able to update the data on the fly, the way I'm doing here. Even the elements themselves can become interactive. So the charts, the pie graphs, you can choose to select them as interactive elements. This then allows you to be able to toggle over the element and have the rest of the report update accordingly. So as you can see here, I'm hovering over a specific date period, and my data is updating accordingly. So that's just another kind of useful feature. So drill down is another one. So if you want to be able to get a bit more detail from a particular chart, graph, item, object you have on the dashboard, you can choose to set up a drill down where you can just go a little bit deeper simply by a right click to just go down a little bit more deeper into the details of that. So that becomes very useful also. Okay. So I'm just going to hop back. Okay. Like I alluded to earlier, a really powerful feature within Data Studio is this ability to be able to combine and merge data. So this isn't just merging the same data, this is merging different data sets and blending them together. So Google Data Studio uses the term data blending to bring different data sets together. So the principles of it are pretty simple. You bring in two different data sets into your account, and you then use the data blending function to be able to join those bits of data together via a common join key. So both sets of data need to share a common dimension, such as a date, maybe an ID, maybe a page URL. And this is what Google Data Studio will use to join that data together. So here we just have an example of some Sheets data being joined with Google Analytics data, and we're joining this data based on date. So by joining this data together, we create a new data source that is a blended data source that we can then use in our reports and in our charts and widgets across our reports. So one of the cool use cases for this is merging offline sales data with online data. So if you've got sales data available that you can export into Google Sheets, you can then look to merge this data with, say, something like Google Analytics data, Google Ads data, in order to see the data side by side and spot trends and basically get a kind of a more kind of holistic view of both data sets and how they impact one another. So I'll show you some examples. This is how it's done based on Google Analytics and Google Sheets example. So here we have an example where we are using inquiry ID to blend data both from GA and data from CRM. So this is all fine as long as you have the same ID available in both the CRM and in Google Analytics. So this could be like a form ID, which is passed, say, on form submission. So that form ID will be captured in the CRM system and will also be captured by Google Analytics. So as long as you have that ID available in both data sets, you are then in a position to be able to merge those data sets together. So once I have those data sets, I can then use the blend functionality. So you'll see this option to be able to kind of blend data. And the easiest way to do it is to select one of your charts. Well, is to get both data sets onto your dashboard as like separate tables, and then select one of the tables and hit blend data. And then what it will do is bring up a pop-up interface where you'll see both data sets together that you can then configure. So we need to set a join key. So this is the most important aspect, setting a join key. So this has got to be obviously a common dimension that's shared across both data sets. So here we're using inquiry ID. So I select all the relevant metrics I want to be able to show in my report for each data set. Once I'm happy with that and I have the join keys aligned, I can just hit save. And you'll notice that this is being saved as a new data source, a new blended data source that I can then use within my reports. So what I've basically done now is merge that data together so that I can use it within a single table. So those two separate bits of data are now merged within a single report, both aligned to a client ID. So you can obviously see the benefits in being able to kind of aggregate this data together. So now that I can start to tie things like offline sales value and leads and opportunities to the original channel source that sent that original inquiry lead in. So I can choose to create reports based on things like channel and sales value. I can see the kind of country where they've come from. And this is all using, making use of existing metrics that were there in GA. And all I've simply done is just brought in the offline lead metrics within Google Sheets. That's been exported from my CRM system. So really useful and really powerful to be able to make use of the GA data merged with the CRM data, just to understand how online activity is affecting leads and sales so you can obviously use this for like ROI analysis, which you've got that data merged and available. So being able to identify things that have the highest kind of win rate, highest opportunity to conversion win rates and lead to sale rates, etc. And which channels bring in the most revenue per user, for example. So there's lots you can do with this. This is really a kind of a good, useful hack method for doing this. If you do happen to be a Google Enterprise 360 user, this process becomes a lot easier if you have Salesforce and Google Analytics 360. Those tools both have direct integration with each other. But if you are interested in just seeing kind of like, basic data from Sheets merged with GA data, for example, Data Studio is a great tool to enable that to happen. Another example is, maybe we want to see, net profit by product SKU. So, if you've got kind of a list of wholesale costs based on SKU, held within a Google Sheets document, you can choose to merge that with the SKUs in Google Analytics in order to get a complete picture of revenue, quantities and average price, merged with product cost and net profits. And again, the principles are the same as the last time. Again, just taking Sheets data and combining it with Google Analytics data that we have. In this instance, we're just using the join key of product SKU in order to tie this data together. So a really simple spreadsheet, just merged with GA data, and a couple of custom formulas in order to get those additional metrics. So yeah, so just the word on the merging of that data. So this will only work if you do have that common identifier in both data sets. If you do want to kind of merge offline data with data in analytics, you're obviously going to need to make sure that the data is both in analytics and in your offline data source as well. So there is a little bit of kind of GA configuration setup, you know, in order to be able to you know, extract an inquiry form ID, for instance, and get that into both GA and your CRM system. So there will be a requirement for a little bit of developer support in order to make those kind of things happen. But if you've got existing metrics and dimensions you can use currently, then you, at a very kind of basic level, you can start to have a go at kind of merging that data and using it within Data Studio. So really, really powerful, offers lots of possibilities to be able to work with that data.
And before you go on to the next section, Ed, I just wanted to add in about the fact that the examples that we've shown you are quite basic, because we've just used the Sheets version where we extracted the third-party data from any CRM system or e-commerce system and used that to merge it. But actually, a lot of the work that we've done in the last 18 months has been much more about getting that data into a communal database, like SQL database, or even using something like Measurement Protocol, where you've got direct API access in and you're merging the data there. So, I mean, this is the simplest for people to understand and actually go off and do today. But some of the more sophisticated stuff you've done has involved other means of bridging the data.
Yeah, so there's going to be some instances where you just want to have you're going to want to have the data directly within Google Analytics itself. So a lot of the kind of projects we've worked on, we've been able to bring in that offline data and actually bring it directly into the platform itself via different APIs and techniques in order to make that happen. So integrating offline data with Google Analytics is totally possible via what's called the Google Analytics Measurement Protocol. So this enables you to be able to send offline hits into Google Analytics. And obviously, once it's within Google Analytics, you can kind of work with it however you want and see it alongside your other data. So you can use Data Studio as a bit of a kind of like a hybrid approach, and it still has lots and lots of use cases. But often there's also the requirement to be able to get that data directly into the platform itself. So that's where things like the offline measurement protocol come into play.
And we've actually written a joint paper on this. I've got in the Applied Analytics Marketing Analytics Journal, where we actually went through a whole load of these integration processes and talked through the actual process. We created like a framework for doing this, because we also brought in Salesforce data into Google AdWords in order to use that for the optimization of the Switch My Business project, which is the one that won us the Drum Awards. So this is sort of quite at the sophisticated end of some of the work that we do, but pretty much any problem you want to solve of bringing and combining data, there is a solution out there. But they're not necessarily simple projects, are they, Ed? They're quite time intensive, some of these projects, just usually because the data's crap to start with and you've got to fix that first.
Yeah. There's often quite a few like technical hurdles you need to overcome to get this stuff in place, and quite a bit of planning as well, and to ensure that you've got the right data coming in. So that's separate really to the Data Studio conversation, but it is something we work with quite a lot here at Anicca. So I'll just wrap up. I've already mentioned that you can share the reports, which you can do. So you can choose to share with different users, offer different levels of access, view or edit access, depending on who you want to give kind of permissions to. You can also choose to embed the dashboards as well within iframe. So if you kind of wanted to be able to kind of host it on your own website, host it within a portal, perhaps, maybe a kind of behind a kind of like a login portal, something like that. You can also choose to embed the report within an iframe itself. Like I mentioned previously, you can also choose to download it as well. So choose to download just a single page or multiple pages from the dashboard, save it, and then obviously be able to kind of share it, use it however you want. Okay, so my top tip summary. So when it comes to actually pulling your data together and kind of thinking about what it is you need to be able to display. So planning, understanding your reporting data needs, understanding, what it is, what questions you need answers to, and if you're even collecting that data correctly in the first place. If you're not collecting it, then you can start to put in, obviously, tracking and solutions in order to get the data you need before you can then report on it. Making sure the data is obviously accurate and reliable. Data Studio and the reports you produce are only as good as the data quality you've got. So if you put garbage in, you're going to get garbage out. So ensuring that you have confidence in the data is obviously very important. When it comes to designing, just think about the audience. Think about who you're designing the report for. Is it top level, organizational? Is it more kind of like operational, kind of tactical? Is it going to your boss, or is it going to your team, your execs, the guys that are doing the work? So have a think about who the audience is actually for. Design. So make the report readable. Tell a story with it. Don't try and cram too much into a single dashboard. Use plenty of white space. Limit your color usage. Make it kind of just legible and readable. And above all, make it tell a story. So design each slide with a focus in mind of what it is it's trying to tell you. So that was my run through. Thanks guys for listening. If you've got any questions, I'm sure we have time for some now.
Yeah, we haven't got any questions at the moment. Somebody put a question, then took it away again, and that was why you would use this compared with other paid tools. I think you've demonstrated the functionality, but I don't think you actually mentioned that Google Data Studio is free, which is a massive advantage.
Yeah, you know, there's no paid fee for it. You know, anybody can just get access to it with a Google account and kind of get started with it. It does offer a tremendous amount of functionality and benefit. You know, for you know, something that is free of charge to use. We think it's absolutely brilliant. We've been using it for like I think 3 or 4
Nearly 4
years
years.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, since it first came out, and yeah, we do the large majority of our reports and visualizations through this now.
Yeah, we're trying to standardize our reports. You know, talking about, we mentioned the online reporting portal, but also even audits can be sped up by doing this. It's an incredible tool. Sometimes I wish we had more time to invest more time to do it. Yeah, Suk's just asked, can you recommend a free template to start with?
We can offer a free template, yes. So, like I said at the beginning, there is a gallery of templates you can head to if you log into Data Studio. But we ourselves also have some templates that we're.
Oops, I don't know, that's me or you.
That's
Sorry.
me.
Okay.
I had included a link into on one of my slides, but I can't see it now. But
I'm going to just put your email address in the chat.
yeah, so if anyone would like a free kind of like starter dashboard for Google Analytics, please email me at ed@anicca.co.uk, and we'll get the link sent over to you. We offer a kind of like it's quite a nice kind of 6-slide GA dashboard, just kind of giving you some of the kind of most useful metrics and reports from GA. So that can be a good one to get started with. So you can use that, clone it, make a copy of it yourself, and then connect up your own data and start using it. So yeah, if anybody would like a free dashboard, please email us, ed@anicca.co.uk.
Excellent. Well, I put that in the chat. I just got a couple of offers for you, so I'll bring up one of them into the screen so you can click on the link. So the first one is, if you haven't already done this, you can access all our free training materials. So you can request access of our free, and that's at the academy.anicca.co.uk. You'll see that's now on the top right. You should be able to go and click on that. We're also offering, for any new work, for campaigns starting before September, the end of September, either £500 discount or an extra day free. Depends on the size of the project, which one you get. And also free consultation with all the heads of the department. So if you're not sure about what you want to do in, you know, your project's going ahead, or you've got some ideas about maybe you want to do a data studio report or follow up on Suk's seminar last week. We're also got some training. Our qualification is starting the beginning of next month. We're going to record these virtually, but there is this will be a sort of an interactive hybrid of real people and actual live lessons. So we'll be doing that as well. This is an actual qualification, so this is a paid for course, but there's a massive 20% discount on that. And then finally, just to promote next week's webinar, is actually my turn next week. We're going to be doing, I'm going to be talking about creating and manipulating audiences. Sorry, there's a lorry outside beeping. It's not me. And this is all about creating quite complex audiences for making really specific, particularly B2B audiences, but also sequential and remarketing audiences. And you can get to that and the recording of this, if you go to the Anicca site and then in the main menu, webinars-videos. We will be sending out the recording for this in the next couple of hours. It usually takes a couple of hours to come through. So you'll get an email with this later on. But I'd just like to finish by thanking Ed very much. We don't seem to have any more questions. So I think there's a little bit of problem with the Q&A. They're obviously doing, oh, hold on, I do have one more question.
Yeah, there's a couple.
What options are there for adding images and photos to make it on brand? And are there any guides to the syntax used in Data Studio?
So yeah, on the adding images and photos, yeah, totally. So on the you have the option to be able to add an image from the toolbar, and that image can be anything you want, from a logo to a full blown photo. You can also put that photo, use that image as a kind of background for your dashboard. So yeah, you can completely bring in any image you like into that dashboard, and a lot of times, a lot of clients will do that, as well as kind of obviously styling up elements to match their kind of brand color scheme. So yeah, you can totally do that. Are there any guides to syntax used in Data Studio? I presume you mean the regex and some of the kind of custom calculations and fields. There's extensive information in the Google Data Studio help section on that. It's pretty kind of comprehensive on what's in there. There's probably some other resources I could also kind of point out to you that I do use. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they are out there. But certainly in the first port of call, check out the Google Data Studio help guides that are out there. They're now quite they're very kind of comprehensive, actually. So hopefully that should answer most of the kind of questions you have.
Ed actually demonstrated how to insert an image because he inserted the Anicca logo when he was doing the demo. So if you replay the recording, you should be able to get that. Okay, everybody. Well, thank you very much for coming in. We're going to carry on with these webinars. And if you go back over to the link that's in this picture here, which is the webinars video link, you can get all the recordings of the previous weeks. And we've got a really good one for the first week of June around using organic social, which I'm just waiting for the title on that. So have a lovely bank holiday weekend, and we'll see you next week. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Ed.